The blue and red lights cut through the humid evening air like knives. Officer Derek Malloy stepped out of his patrol car, adjusting his belt with practiced authority. The sedan he'd pulled over sat quiet under a flickering streetlight, its driver's window already rolled down. He approached slowly, flashlight in hand. Inside sat a black woman in her late 40s, hands visible on the steering wheel. Her posture was calm, professional even. Something about her composure irritated him. "License and registration," Derek said, his tone clipped. She reached for her glove compartment without a word. Her movements were deliberate, measured. She handed him the documents through the window. Her eyes met his, steady, unflinching. Derek scanned the license. Maya Winters, clean record. Current address in the neighboring county. He looked back at her, then at the modest sedan. Something didn't add up in his mind. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" he asked. "Driving home," she said simply. The simplicity of her answer felt like defiance. Derek's jaw tightened. He leaned closer to the window, his shadow swallowing the interior light. "You live around here?" His tone suggested he already knew the answer, and didn't believe it. "Passing through," Maya replied. Her voice remained even, almost gentle. Derek straightened, clicking his tongue. He walked back to his patrol car, taking his time. He ran her information through the system. Everything came back clean. Too clean. It annoyed him more than it should have. "Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful stories like this." Sergeant Derek Malloy had been with the department for 10 years. A decade of traffic stops, domestic calls, and paperwork that never seemed to end. He'd joined the force with vague notions of heroism, but the reality was far more mundane. Over time, something had shifted inside him, a hardness that settled into his bones like frost. He'd learned early that the badge carried weight. People deferred to it, feared it, respected it. He'd grown comfortable with that power, perhaps too comfortable. His colleagues knew him as efficient, if a bit rough around the edges. His wife knew him as distant. His daughter barely knew him at all. Tonight was supposed to be simple. A routine patrol through the Eastern District, then home to a cold dinner and silence. But routine had a way of revealing what people kept hidden. Maya Winters sat in her car, hands still on the wheel. She knew this dance too well. 25 years in law enforcement had taught her every step, every misstep, every dangerous improvisation. She'd walked beats in neighborhoods where backup never came. She'd earned her detective shield by solving cases others had abandoned. She'd climbed through the ranks slowly, deliberately. Each promotion a small war won. Sergeant at 32, lieutenant at 38, captain at 43, and tomorrow at 47, she would stand before cameras and officials as the state's first black female police chief. But tonight, she was just another driver. Just another face behind a windshield. Just another woman waiting for a cop to decide her fate. She thought of her father, retired Officer Thomas Winters, who'd spent 30 years wearing blue in a department that never fully embraced him. He'd taught her two things: wear the badge with honor, and never forget the weight of humanity beneath the uniform. Maya glanced at her rearview mirror. Derek was still sitting in his patrol car, taking longer than necessary. She recognized the pattern, the unnecessary delay, the silent assertion of control. She'd seen it 1,000 times. She exhaled slowly, keeping her breathing steady. Derek returned to her window, this time without the flashlight. His expression had hardened into something colder. She held her documents loosely as if they were contaminated. "Step out of the vehicle," he said. Maya's eyebrows lifted slightly. "May I ask why?" "Just step out." His hand moved toward his belt, not to his weapon, but close enough to send a message. Maya complied. She opened the door slowly, keeping her movements visible. She stood beside her car, the evening air thick with humidity and tension. A few residents had emerged on nearby porches, drawn by the lights. Derek circled her vehicle, peering through windows. "What's in the trunk?" "Groceries," Maya said. "And a gym bag." "Open it." She moved to the back, popped the trunk. Inside, 2 canvas shopping bags, a duffel with workout clothes, a pair of running shoes. Exactly as she described. Derek stared at the contents as if searching for contradictions. He found none. His frustration was visible now, rippling beneath his professional veneer. "This your car?" he asked. "Yes." "You got proof of insurance?" "It's in the glove compartment." "With the registration you're holding?" Derek's face flushed. He knew he was reaching, grasping at authority that was slipping through his fingers. A young man across the street had his phone out, recording. Derek noticed. "Mind your business, sir," Derek shouted toward the bystander. Maya remained silent, hands at her sides. She knew what was coming. She'd felt it building like a storm. Derek turned back to her, his voice dropping low. "You don't belong in this neighborhood. I don't know what you're really doing here, but I suggest you move along before I find a reason to bring you in." "I have every right to be here," Maya said quietly. The gentleness in her tone cracked something inside him. Derek leaned in close, his breath hot with anger. "Listen here," he hissed. "I don't care what you think your rights are. Around here I decide who belongs and who's just trash passing through." The word hung in the air like poison. Maya didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't raise her voice. She simply reached into her pocket, slowly, deliberately, and pulled out her phone. Derek's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon. "What are you doing?" he demanded. Maya held up one finger, then pressed a single contact. The phone rang twice before someone answered. "It's happening again," she said softly into the phone. Then she lowered it, ending the call. Derek stared at her, confusion mixing with his rage. "Who did you just call?" Maya met his eyes. "Someone who needs to know." Derek watched her taillights disappear into the night, his chest tight with indignation. He'd let her go with a warning, a gesture he considered generous. He climbed back into his patrol car, hands gripping the steering wheel harder than necessary. Something about her bothered him. The way she'd remained calm, almost detached. The way she'd looked at him, not with fear, but with something else. Recognition, maybe, or pity. He shook it off. Just another traffic stop. Just another night. Maya drove 3 blocks before pulling into an empty parking lot. She put the car in park, engine still running. Her hands rested on the wheel, fingers steady despite the tremor building in her chest. She'd been here before. Different streets, different uniforms, same script. The assumptions, the casual cruelty, the weaponized authority. 25 years hadn't insulated her from it. The badge she'd wear tomorrow wouldn't erase what had just happened. Her phone buzzed. A text from her deputy chief. "Footage received, reviewed, waiting for your word." Maya closed her eyes. She could hear her father's voice, clear as if he were sitting beside her. It was a memory from her academy graduation, his hand on her shoulder, his words quiet and firm. "You'll face men who see the uniform before they see you," he'd said. "And you'll face men who refuse to see you at all, no matter what you wear. Don't let them make you small. Don't let them steal your purpose." She opened her eyes. The parking lot was empty, the streetlights casting long shadows. She thought about Derek Malloy, a man who'd probably go home tonight feeling righteous, validated, unchallenged. Tomorrow that would change. Maya typed a response to her deputy. "Hold until morning. I want to handle this personally." She put the car in drive and headed home. Maya's childhood home had always smelled like coffee and leather polish. Her father would sit at the kitchen table every morning before his shift, polishing his boots until they gleamed. She'd watch from the doorway, mesmerized by the ritual. "Why do you shine them every day?" she'd asked once, maybe 7 years old. Thomas Winters had looked up, his face weathered but kind. "Because people judge you before you speak. If you look sharp, they listen. If you look sloppy, they dismiss you. And folks like us, we can't afford to be dismissed." She hadn't fully understood then, but she'd absorbed the lesson anyway, watching him prepare for a job that often didn't respect him back. He'd faced suspensions for speaking up, been passed over for promotions he'd earned, endured comments from colleagues who saw his skin before his service. But he'd never quit. Never compromised. Never let the bitterness harden him into something he wasn't. Maya joined the academy at 22, 6 months after her father's retirement party. He'd been proud and terrified in equal measure. It's harder for women, he'd warned her. Harder still for black women. They'll test you every day. Never give them a reason to doubt you. She'd taken his words as gospel. Every arrest, every report, every interaction, she made sure it was flawless. While her white male colleagues could afford mistakes, she couldn't. One error would define her. One misstep would confirm their suspicions. She'd earned her detective shield by working a cold case everyone else had abandoned, a missing girl from a poor neighborhood. 3 months of unpaid overtime, following leads that went nowhere until finally a witness, a confession, a family reunited with closure. The department praised her publicly and resented her privately. The promotions came slowly. Each one required twice the work, twice the proof, twice the patience. Lieutenant, captain, deputy chief, and now finally chief. Tomorrow's announcement would be historic. The governor himself would introduce her. Cameras from every major network would be there. She'd prepared a speech about unity, reform, and accountability, but tonight had reminded her why the work mattered. Derek Malloy wasn't an anomaly. He was a symptom of a culture that needed dismantling from within. Her father had passed 2 years ago, his heart giving out quietly in his sleep. She wished he could be there tomorrow, could see her sworn in, but maybe he already knew. Maybe he'd always known this was where she'd end up. Maya pulled into her driveway. The house was dark, empty. She'd sacrificed relationships for her career, a marriage that couldn't survive her ambition, friendships that faded under the weight of her schedule. Tomorrow, she'd stand alone on that stage. But she wouldn't be powerless. Not anymore. Maya sat at her kitchen table, laptop open. The dashcam footage loaded slowly, the progress bar crawling across the screen. She knew what she'd see, but watching it felt necessary. Evidence required witnessing. The video played, Derek approaching her car. His tone clipped and cold. The questions that had nothing to do with traffic safety. His command for her to exit the vehicle. The unnecessary trunk search. Then the moment. His face leaning close, venom in his expression. His mouth forming the word trash. Maya replayed it 3 times. Not for confirmation. The first viewing had been enough. She replayed it to feel the full weight of what tomorrow would bring. This wasn't just about her. This was about every person Derek had stopped with that same contempt, every complaint that had been buried. She opened a second file. Derek's personnel record, obtained through her incoming chief clearance. 10 years of service, multiple commendations. But buried deeper, 3 civilian complaints, excessive force, racial profiling, unprofessional conduct. All 3 investigations had been closed without discipline. Insufficient evidence, conflicting statements. Benefit of the doubt extended like a shield. The pattern was clear. Derek Malloy had learned he was untouchable. The system had taught him that his badge was armor against accountability. Tonight he'd treated her exactly as he'd treated countless others, with impunity. Maya drafted an email to Internal Affairs. Subject line priority review required. She attached the dashcam footage, Derek's personnel file, and a formal complaint. Her finger hovered over the send button. A text came through from her deputy chief. Press conference set for 9 a.m. Media confirmed. Governor's office confirmed. You ready? Maya smiled faintly. She typed back, more than ready. She hit send on the email to IA, adding a note. Hold investigation until after press conference. I want this handled publicly. The video uploaded. The complaint filed. The wheels of justice, often slow, were about to accelerate. Maya closed her laptop. Tomorrow Derek Malloy would walk into work expecting a normal day. He'd laugh with his colleagues, Maybe tell the story of the uppity woman who'd challenged him. He'd feel invincible. By noon he'd understand just how wrong he was. She stood, poured herself a glass of water. Her father's retirement photo sat on the counter. Him in dress blues, eyes crinkled with pride. She touched the frame gently. "This one's for you, Dad," she whispered, "and for everyone who came before me. Tomorrow would be historic, but tonight justice was being prepared in silence." Derek walked into the precinct the next morning with a coffee in one hand and a satisfied smirk on his face. The night shift was filtering out, officers exchanging tired nods. He headed straight for the break room where his partner, Officer James Chen, was refilling his mug. "You hear about the new chief?" James asked, not looking up. Derek shrugged. "Some political appointment. Probably never worked a real shift." James finally glanced at him. "You seem chipper for a Wednesday." "Had an interesting stop last night," Derek said, leaning against the counter. "Woman in the East District acting like she owned the place." "Gave her a reality check." James's expression shifted slightly. "Define reality check." "Just reminded her how things work around here. She got mouthy, I put her in her place." Derek sipped his coffee, relishing the memory. Another officer, Sarah Mitchell, walked in. She'd overheard the conversation. "Derek, please tell me you had your body cam on." "Why wouldn't I?" Derek's confidence wavered for just a second. "Because the new chief is big on accountability," Sarah said carefully. "Word is she's reviewing everything. Past complaints, footage, the whole 9 yards. Derek laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Let her review. I do everything by the book." James set his mug down with more force than necessary. "Derek, man, be straight with me. What exactly did you say to this woman?" Derek's jaw tightened. Nothing she didn't deserve to hear. The room went quiet. Sarah exchanged a glance with James. They'd both heard rumors about Derek's stops, whispers that never quite made it to formal complaints. The code of silence had protected him before, but something felt different this morning. The air in the precinct carried a strange electricity, like the moment before a storm breaks. Derek finished his coffee and tossed the cup. "You two worry too much. I've been doing this for 10 years. Nobody's coming for me." He walked out, heading toward the locker room. Behind him, Sarah pulled out her phone and sent a quick text to someone in admin. "He doesn't know yet, does he?" The response came immediately. "No, he will soon." Derek was changing into his uniform when his radio crackled. "Sergeant Malloy, report to Captain Rodriguez's office immediately." He frowned. Immediate summons were never good, but they weren't unusual either. Probably some paperwork issue or schedule change. He finished buttoning his shirt and headed upstairs. Captain Rodriguez's office door was closed. Derek knocked twice. "Come in." He entered. Rodriguez sat behind his desk, face unreadable. But it was the laptop screen that made Derek's stomach drop. Frozen on the display was dashcam footage. His patrol car, a sedan, pulled over. Blue and red lights painting the scene. "Sit down, Derek," Rodriguez said quietly. Derek sat, eyes fixed on the screen. His mouth went dry. Rodriguez pressed play. Derek watched himself approach the car. Watched himself demand the driver exit. Watched himself lean in close, his voice captured clearly by the camera's microphone. Just trash passing through. The word echoed in the small office. Derek felt his face flush hot, then cold. Rodriguez paused the video. The silence stretched like rubber about to snap. "Do you remember this stop?" Rodriguez asked. "Sir, I can explain." "I'm not asking for an explanation. I'm asking if you remember it." Derek nodded stiffly. "Yes, last night." "The woman was—" "Careful," Rodriguez interrupted. "Be very careful about your next words." Derek's hands gripped the armrests of his chair. Something was wrong, very wrong. Rodriguez's tone wasn't just disappointed. It was resigned, almost sympathetic. "The woman you stopped," Rodriguez continued slowly, "filed a formal complaint this morning. Internal Affairs has already opened an investigation." Derek's heart hammered. "A complaint? For what? I didn't—" "Watch the rest." Rodriguez pressed play again. The video continued. Derek's aggression. The bystander filming. Maya's calm, deliberate. Rodriguez closed the laptop. He looked at Derek with something that might have been pity. "The new state police chief wants to see you," Rodriguez said. "Personally," Derek blinked. "The chief? Why would she?" And then it hit him. The way Rodriguez had emphasized state police chief. The way everyone in the break room had been acting strange. The texts Sarah had been sending. "Who is she?" Derek asked, though part of him already knew the answer. Rodriguez stood, moving toward the door. "Her name is Maya Winters." "And Derek?" "She's the woman from the video." The floor seemed to tilt beneath Derek's feet. The woman he'd called trash. The woman he'd dismissed and degraded. His new boss. The highest-ranking law enforcement officer in the state. "Oh, God," Derek whispered. Rodriguez opened the door. "She's waiting for you. 4th floor corner office. Don't make her wait longer." Derek stood on shaking legs. His badge felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. He walked out of Rodriguez's office and toward the elevator, each step heavier than the last. Other officers watched him pass. They knew, everyone knew. He pressed the button for the 4th floor. The doors closed. His reflection stared back at him in the polished metal, a man who just realized he'd destroyed his own career with a single word. The elevator climbed. Derek's mind raced through 1,000 justifications, 1,000 excuses. None of them would matter. The doors opened. A nameplate gleamed on the corner office door. Chief Maya Winters. Derek's hand trembled as he raised it to knock. Derek knocked. The sound felt too loud in the quiet hallway. "Come in," a voice said, calm, controlled, familiar. He pushed the door open. Maya Winters sat behind an enormous desk, hands folded, eyes fixed on him. She wore a crisp uniform in deep navy, silver stars gleaming on her shoulders. She looked exactly as she had last night, except now the power dynamics had inverted completely. "Close the door," Maya said. Derek obeyed. His legs barely supported him as he crossed the room. He didn't sit. She hadn't invited him to. The office was immaculate. Commendations lined one wall. Family photos sat on a credenza. Maya with what looked like her father, both in dress blues. Behind her desk, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Maya let the silence build. Derek stood there, drowning in it. Finally, she spoke. "Do you know why you're here, Sergeant Malloy?" "Yes, ma'am." His voice came out hoarse. "Tell me why." Derek's throat constricted. "The stop. Last night. What I said to you." Maya nodded slowly. "What you said. What you did. What you've been doing." She opened a folder on her desk. 3 civilian complaints in your file. All dismissed. All involving people of color. All involving language similar to what you used with me. Derek's hands clenched at his sides. He wanted to defend himself, to explain, to make her understand that it wasn't what it looked like. But the words died before reaching his mouth. "I reviewed your entire service record this morning," Maya continued. 10 years. Multiple commendations. You're an effective officer by most metrics, but effectiveness without integrity is just sanctioned cruelty. She closed the folder. Her eyes never left his face. "You called me trash, Sergeant, on a public street. With witnesses. With cameras, and because you saw a black woman in a neighborhood you decided she didn't belong in." Maya's voice remained steady, almost gentle. "But this isn't about me. I can handle your disrespect. What I can't handle is knowing you've treated others the same way. People without my rank, my resources, my ability to fight back." Derek finally found his voice. "Ma'am, I apologize. I was out of line. It won't happen again." "You're right," Maya said. "It won't." Maya stood, moving to the window. The morning sun cast long shadows across her office. Derek remained frozen, waiting for his sentence. "I'm suspending you pending full IA investigation," Maya said without turning around. "Effective immediately." "Badge and weapon on my desk." Derek's hands moved automatically, unbuckling his service weapon, unpinning his badge. The metal felt cold as he placed them on the polished wood. 10 years reduced to 2 small objects on a desk. "I'm also ordering a department-wide review," Maya continued. Every complaint filed in the last 5 years will be reopened and re-examined. Every closed investigation will be scrutinized by an independent panel. And every officer with a pattern of discriminatory behavior will face consequences. She turned back to face him. You're not the disease, Sergeant Malloy. You're a symptom. This department has protected officers like you for too long. That ends today. Derek's face flushed with anger and shame. So that's it? One mistake and my career is over? Maya's expression hardened. One mistake. Let me show you something. She pulled up files on her computer, turning the monitor toward him. Reports, complaints, witness statements. A pattern stretching back years. Derek saw his own name repeated. Complaint after complaint that had been buried, dismissed, forgotten. This woman, Maya pointed to a name, said you shoved her teenage son against a car during a routine stop. Called him a thug. No evidence found, case closed. She scrolled. This man said you planted evidence during the search. Investigated by your own precinct, no wrongdoing discovered. Another scroll. This family said you terrorized them during a welfare check, used racial slurs, threatened arrest without cause. Witnesses recanted under pressure. Derek's defenses crumbled. He'd forgotten half of these incidents, dismissed the rest as people trying to get out of trouble. But seeing them lined up one after another, the pattern was undeniable. These people had no power, Maya said quietly. They complained and the system swallowed their voices. But I have power now, and I'm going to use it to make sure their voices finally matter. She closed the files. You have two options, Sergeant. You can fight this. Lawyer up, drag it through union hearings, make this long and painful for everyone. Or you can resign quietly, avoid criminal charges, and try to salvage what's left of your dignity. Derek stared at her. You want me to just quit? I want you to take responsibility, Maya corrected. Something you should have done years ago. The room fell silent again. Outside, the city hummed with morning traffic. Derek thought about his daughter, his wife, his mortgage. He thought about facing trial, seeing his face on the news, becoming the example everyone would point to. He thought about the woman from last night, calm, composed, powerful, and how badly he'd underestimated her. I need time, Derek said finally. You have until the end of the day, Maya replied. Decide carefully. Whatever you choose, the truth is going public. I'm announcing reforms at a press conference this afternoon. Your case will be part of that announcement. Derek nodded numbly. He turned toward the door. Sergeant, Maya called after him. He stopped, looking back. I hope you learned something from this, she said. I hope you understand that the badge doesn't make you better than anyone. It makes you responsible to everyone. Derek left without responding. The door clicked shut behind him. The press conference room buzzed with activity. Cameras lined the back wall. Reporters filled every seat. State officials sat in the front row. The governor stood at the podium, introducing Maya with words about progress, leadership, and historic moments. Maya waited in the wings, watching. She wore her dress uniform, every detail perfect. In her pocket, her father's old badge, the one he'd carried for 30 years. She touched it once for luck. Ladies and gentlemen, the governor concluded, I present your new state police chief, Maya Winters. Applause erupted. Maya walked to the podium, shaking the governor's hand. Flashbulbs popped like small explosions. She adjusted the microphone, waiting for the noise to subside. Thank you, Governor. Thank you all. Her voice carried confidence and authority. I'm honored to serve in this role. But I'm not here today just to accept an appointment. I'm here to announce a fundamental change in how we approach law enforcement in this state. The room quieted. Reporters leaned forward. Last night, Maya continued, I was pulled over by one of our officers. A routine traffic stop. I complied with every request. I was respectful. I presented all required documentation. And at the end of that interaction, that officer called me trash. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras zoomed closer. I'm going to show you what happened, Maya said, because transparency is where accountability begins. A screen descended behind her. The dashcam footage played on every monitor in the room. Derek's face. His words. The slur captured in crystal-clear audio. The room fell silent except for the video. When it ended, the silence deepened into something heavy and uncomfortable. "That officer is Sergeant Derek Malloy," Maya said. "He's been suspended pending investigation. But he's not the real problem. The real problem is a system that allowed him to treat people this way for years." She pulled up the complaints. Redacted names but clear patterns. 3 complaints. All dismissed. All buried. The system protected him. The system failed the people he was supposed to serve. A reporter's hand shot up. Maya nodded. "Chief Winters, what happens now?" "Now we change," Maya said firmly. "I'm ordering a full review of every closed complaint in the last 5 years. I'm implementing mandatory bias training. I'm installing independent oversight panels. And I'm making it clear, the badge is a responsibility, not a shield." Another reporter. "What about Sergeant Malloy?" "He has until end of day to resign or face formal charges," Maya answered. "Either way, his actions will be investigated thoroughly. If criminal wrongdoing is found, he'll face prosecution." "Some will say you're being too harsh," a third reporter called out. Maya's expression hardened. "I would say we've been too lenient for too long. How many people suffered because we protected bad officers? How many complaints were silenced? How many families were terrorized because we valued loyalty over justice?" She leaned into the microphone. "My father was a police officer for 30 years. He taught me that this job is about service, not power. It's about protecting the vulnerable, not preying on them. And if we can't live up to that standard, we don't deserve to wear this uniform." The room erupted with questions. Maya answered them all with patience and precision. She didn't deflect. She didn't minimize. She took responsibility on behalf of the department and outlined concrete steps for change. An hour later, as the press conference ended, Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Captain Rodriguez. Malloy submitted his resignation, effective immediately. Maya closed her eyes briefly. It wasn't satisfaction she felt. It was exhaustion mixed with grim determination. 1 officer held accountable. Hundreds more to review. Their culture to transform. But it was a start. 3 months later, Maya stood in the same precinct where Derek Malloy had once worked. She'd instituted quarterly town halls, meetings where community members could speak directly to command staff. Tonight's was packed. A woman in her 60s raised her hand. Maya called on her. "Chief Winters, my son was stopped 3 years ago. The officer was aggressive, used terrible language. We filed a complaint, but nothing happened. Will his case be reviewed?" "Yes," Maya said without hesitation. "Give your information to my assistant after this meeting. Every case is being reviewed." Another hand. A young man, maybe 20. "What's changed since you took over?" Maya smiled slightly. "Accountability. We've reopened 47 investigations. 12 officers have been disciplined. 6 resigned. We've implemented body cameras with automatic uploads. No more convenient equipment failures. And we've hired a community liaison whose sole job is ensuring complaints are heard and investigated fairly." Murmurs of approval spread through the crowd. Not everyone was satisfied. Change was slow and trust had to be rebuilt brick by brick. But the foundation was being laid. After the meeting, Maya drove past the street where Derek had pulled her over. The neighborhood looked different somehow. Or maybe she was seeing it differently. She thought about Derek, who'd taken a security job at a shopping mall according to Rodriguez. His law enforcement career was over. She thought about her father, wishing he could see what she'd built. The reforms, the accountability, the shift in culture that was happening slowly but inevitably. Her phone rang. Her deputy chief. "Boss, we just got word. The state legislature is passing the Accountability in Law Enforcement Act. It's based on your recommendations." Maya pulled over, processing the news. Statewide reform, independent oversight, mandatory reporting of complaints. Everything she'd pushed for now becoming law. "When's the signing?" she asked. "Next week." Governor wants you there, Maya smiled. I'll be there. She hung up and sat quietly for a moment. Outside, a family walked past, mother, father, 2 kids. They glanced at her official vehicle and waved. Maya waved back. That was the difference. Not fear, not suspicion. Just a simple wave between neighbors. Maya stood at her office window as the sun set over the city. 6 months into her tenure, and the work felt both overwhelming and necessary. Every day brought new challenges. Officers resistant to change, community members still wounded by decades of broken trust, politicians demanding quick fixes for systemic problems. But every day also brought small victories. A complaint resolved fairly. An officer commended for choosing de-escalation over force. Her kid from a rough neighborhood telling her he wanted to be a cop someday, because you showed me what good looks like. She touched her father's badge in her pocket. The metal was warm from being carried close to her heart. She remembered his words spoken at her academy graduation. The badge doesn't make you powerful. How you wield it does. Derek Malloy had wielded his badge like a weapon. He'd used authority to diminish rather than protect. And the system had enabled him until someone with power forced accountability. Maya knew she wasn't done. One officer held accountable didn't fix a broken culture. But it sent a message. No one is above justice. No badge shields cruelty. No rank excuses discrimination. Her phone buzzed. An email from the woman whose son had been mistreated 3 years ago. Subject line, "Thank you." Maya opened it. Just 2 sentences. My son's case was reopened. The officer who hurt him has been disciplined. You gave us back our voices. Maya's eyes welled. This was why the work mattered. Not for recognition or headlines, but for the people who'd been silenced too long. She typed back, "Your voice always mattered. I'm just making sure people listen." She closed her laptop and looked out at the city one last time. Lights flickered on in apartments and offices. People going about their lives, most of them never knowing the quiet battles fought to keep them safe and treated fairly. Maya smiled. Her father would have been proud. Not because she'd reached the top, but because she remembered why she climbed. Justice isn't a destination, she whispered to the empty office. It's a choice you make every single day. She picked up her jacket and headed home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new fights, new opportunities to make that choice, and she would choose justice every single time.